to Steel Mint Events. I'm Ruchira Singh. Today's webinar is titled Indian Flat Steel Market, Short and Medium Term Outlook. The flat steel market is almost half of India's total, almost 100 million ton of steel production. So the flat steel products go into the automobile, consumer goods, and construction sectors. So as we all have seen in the steel business that we are sitting on shifting sands, some of the trends that had set in earlier took not very long to change. You must have seen with the auctions of the iron ore mines, what seemed like a perfectly well-conducted auctions actually went the other way, and production is not happening much at some of those mines that were auctioned. And likewise, steel producers began the year with a lot of exports, but that trend also changed. So I'm sure it's going to be very, very difficult to make even a medium term or a short term prediction for this market, but we are going to try our best. And through this webinar, our objective is going to be to bring out what might happen in the future across the 5 themes of production, demand, supply, and export import, and also the pricing trends. So let me introduce the panelists to you. Our first panelist is Mr. Saji Samuel. He is Vice President, Cold Roll Products and Head SBU, which is Strategic Business Unit, Auto, All India at JSW Steel Limited. He is a veteran in the company. He has grown with the company, as he says it. He has put in 23 years in it. Our next panelist is Mr. Nikunj Turakia. He is President of Steel Users Federation of India. He is also the CEO and promoter of Standard Group of India. This company is a distributor of flat steel products as well as other steel products. Mr. Turakia is also the General Secretary of Chamber of Associations of Maharashtra Industry and Trade. The next panelist is Mr. Saptarishi Saha. He is head heavy plate sales at ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel. He is also a veteran in the steel industry and also with this company. Started off as a business analyst and then moved on to sales and marketing functions in this company. We also have Nitish Shukl from Steel Mint Group. He is Assistant General Manager, Pricing Index and Content at this company, looking at the steel vertical. So thank you all, gentlemen. Thank you all for your time today. And I'd also like to welcome all of the 200 plus participants who have logged on today. Thank you very much for registering. I do hope that this webinar proves to be of use to you. So the way we are structured for the day, we will first have a presentation from Nitish, who's going to fill us in with all of the background and all of the details and data that we need to know about the flat steel market. That would be for approximately 10 minutes. And after that, we'll have the question and answer session between myself and all the panelists. And then audience, it's going to be your turn to ask the questions. So you can keep them ready. You might like to wait until much of the discussions are over so that you don't end up asking what has already been asked. You can put in your questions in the Q&A box down below on your screen, but do put in your name as well and your company name so that we get to know you better. So we'll first start off with Nitish's presentation, and this is going to be on the flat steel market. Nitish, over to you.
Right. Thank you so much, Ruchira. Welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Let me just quickly share a very small presentation with everyone just to set the context. I hope my presentation is visible.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Indian flat steel market and the short and medium term outlook. Let's move to the first slide. So the first slide talks about how the domestic HRC prices have shaped up from financial year 15 till November 2020. Now, looking at the trend from financial year 20, in Q1, we can see a slight dip in prices to rupees 41,354 per ton on account of dull trades due to general elections. In Q2, the prices further gone down to rupees 37,163 per ton because of monsoon. Q3 FY20 saw a slump in auto and construction sector, cash crunch and reduction in credit facilities, due to which the prices fell even further to rupees 35,246 per ton. From January 2020 onwards, we can see the prices rally and hovering around 38,250 per ton as on March 2020. In April, the nation went into a lockdown due to which, the economic activities were put on hold. Once the process of unlocking the economy began, the HRC prices further dipped due to poor market sentiments, and prices fell straight to 36,510 per ton in the month of July 2020. Now, upon receiving the confidence from the government of India of no further nationwide lockdown, the economic activities revived, and new norms of social distancing led to an uptick in demand from the auto sector and white goods sector, resulting in price hike of around 39,750 per ton as on August 2020. Raw material cost push, supply constraints, and limited import bookings have led to a steep hike in HRC prices. The ex-yard Mumbai HRC prices, as per Steelman's analysis, as on November 2020, was at around 45,875 per ton. Now, we are also given to understand from our market sources that from 1st December 2020, AMNS has further increased the HRC ex-yard Mumbai prices to around 46,000 rupees per ton, and JSW Steel has increased the prices to around 46,750 per ton. Now, these are ex-yard Mumbai prices. Moving on to the second slide. In the second slide, we can observe the production and consumption volumes of Indian flat steel. I'd like to draw your attention to the figures pertaining to January 2020. The production clocked at around 4.26 million tons, whereas the consumption stood at around 3.65 million tons, leading to inventory levels of around 0.6 million tons in the domestic market. Now, the economy went into lockdown in April 2020, and we can observe the production at 3.65 million tons, but the consumption was at a mere 0.35 million tons. This was majorly due to lockdown. Once the process of unlock began, we started to observe a huge demand from the international market and also pent-up demand from auto and white goods sector, due to which the gap between production and consumption figures narrowed. As on October 2020, the production clocked at 42.23 million tons, and almost all the flat steel was consumed. The consumption stood at around 41 million tons. Moving on to the third slide. Now let's look at how the Indian flat steel export volumes have panned out. The export from January 2020 has seen a decline month on month, apart from May and June, which observed a significant spike in exports. This was mainly due to weak domestic market sentiments because of lockdown and better realization from importing nations. Once the market sentiments revived, we can clearly see a month-on-month fall in the overall exports of flat steel products. Now, there are mainly three reasons due to which the exports have gone down. First is the mills have reduced the export allocations. So in the recently announced investors conference call of JSPL, they said that they are going to cut down the steel exports to 20% of the overall total sales. During the lockdown, the company was exporting around 70 to 72% of the total sales. Meanwhile, JSW has also reported a decline in steel exports on strong recovery in domestic market. Share of exports stood at 28% in Q2 FY21 compared to 57% of its total sales in Q1 FY21. The second point is, the better realization from domestic market. The Indian steel mills have significantly raised HRC prices by over 5,000 per ton and CRC prices by almost 10,000 per month in the last 3 to 4 months. The third point is the robust demand in the auto sector, and that has compelled mills to reduce exports. We've been seeing the reports of Q2 and Maruti Suzuki. We've seen the report wherein their company has sold 393,130 vehicles during the quarter, higher by 16.2% compared to the same period previous year. So sales in the domestic market, stood at around 370,619 units, which was higher by 18.6%. So, from the graph, you can clearly see that as on October 2020, the exports came down to 42% and stood at around 4.46 million tons. Moving on to the next slide, I'll quickly talk about the imports. The importers and stockists are less likely to import flat steel on global prices, on higher global prices. Also, in many cases, domestic prices are at par with the landed cost of imports, due to which it's better to prefer the materials which are manufactured locally. Meanwhile, the HRC imports from China have also, come down because of higher custom duty. That's about it from my side as far as the imports are concerned. I quickly wanted to throw some lights on some key factors that are indicating a spike in demand in the domestic market. So Mahindra and Mahindra has reported a 56% year-on-year increase in the tractor sales in November 2020. TVS Motors has reported about 21% year-on-year increase in the two-wheeler sales in November 2020. Maruti Suzuki reported a 16% year-on-year increase in the numbers of units sold in Q2 FY21. The domestic FMCG market is expected to increase at a CAGR of 9% to reach about rupees 3.515 trillion by 2022. Godrej Properties has reported a 11% hike in their booking value in the first half of the financial year 21 as compared to the last previous year. The cycle sales in India has jumped over two-folds and stand at around 41,80,945 as we speak from May to September. So, these indicators, really show that the demand from domestic market is really picking up. Lastly, I'd like to, talk about Steel Mint. So recently we have revamped our platform and processes and made them in line with global standards of price reporting by providing credible and transparent commodity price assessments backed by a robust IOSCO compliant methodology and price rationale. We would be more than happy to welcome you to visit our website and mobile application platform, take demo and share your valuable feedback with our support team. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Nitish. So we'll start off with our question and answer round now. And the first thing that I have here is prices, of course. It is on everybody's minds. And Nitish, when I saw your price slide, I quite noticed that the current prices are actually in line with the prices that were there 5 years back. 5 years back also, 2015, prices were between 44,000 rupees per ton to 46,000 rupees per ton. And we are quite in that same terrain. So just because prices have risen quite sharply and there have been rapid increases by the steel makers, it is very much in the talk and people have been alarmed by it. So that was just an observation. So I'd like to now ask the panelists what their outlook is on the prices. Do you think there is headroom for more increases after, I think, 4 rounds of increases, and also as per Steel Mint's intelligence, another round of a hike could be coming. So starting off with you, Mr. Saptarishi Saha, could you tell us what your outlook is on prices?
First, I would like to just put across a point. I think we overthink on steel prices. Steel prices follow any other commodity pricing. So it is either driven by demand or driven by cost push. And I was also actually looking at the data which you have projected. It almost looks like steel is kind of an inflation neutral price. So even if you look at 2008, before Lehman level, so we have almost reached that level now, and that took us almost 12, 13 years to reach. And of course, we know steel is cyclical, so probably we do slightly over analysis on prices. But anyway, this current increase is basis strong demand, strong domestic demand, as well as cost push from iron ore side. So and if you look at global markets, there is no market which is operating at lower price currently. In fact, if we have to export to Europe, you'll probably mills will get a better realization than domestic prices. So looking at all this, and also if you look at scrap prices, historically the trend has been, unless there's a drop in scrap prices, we don't see a drop in steel prices. Generally, steel prices follow a scrap price drop. But the sudden jump in scrap prices in November, that tells that probably there is still more headroom for a price increase in steel.
Right. So do you think it might be a new year present, or do you think it might come sooner than that?
I think it is, the retail market is going up continuously. So it's not a month to month basis, it's more of a weekly basis. So I think we will have a small price increase if the demand stays strong, and there is no reason why the demand should go down. The indicators which we have from everywhere, from auto to yellow goods to the new project offerings. So I do not think there is demand slowdown immediately happening in India, or even
Right.
a slight dip. And if you
Right.
compare that with exports opportunities, I do not think there will be a lull in prices very soon.
Mr. Samuel, something similar at your end? Is your company also likely to raise the prices further and
Yeah,
sooner than later?
good afternoon, Ruchira. Thank you, Steelmint, for having given me this opportunity to come and be a panelist in your program. This is, maybe very honest, that is my first appearance. So thank you very much once again. First of all, coming back to what Saha said, steel prices is generally as going for other commodity, it happens for steel too. But if you look back, say 2 quarters ago, when the pandemic struck India, it struck a little late, when the others were completed their quarter 1. For us, it started after the end of first quarter, that is after March it started. So for us, literally it was quarter 1. And what literally happened is, the agriculture industry was doing very well even during the pandemic. So that was the reason why, as Nishant Nitish showed in his presentation, that, the Mahindra tractor business went up. So agriculture went up. So initially the drive was for more of a, quota type of business doing well. And then it was followed by an auto doing well. And now since the iron ore prices have gone up, the HR prices have started moving up. And now in quarter 4, you will again see, historically we see that in the quarter 4 or the new financial year before the monsoon sets in, it is the galvanizers who generally take the lead in taking the material. And that is in quarter 4 or the quarter 1 of any financial year, the international prices also start picking up. So one, the cost push. Second is the demand. Because what happened during pandemic, many of the stock that was there, that got liquidated in the system. So the system was shown a lower stock, leading to which, today there's being driven with so much of high demand, plus there is no stock on ground. People are really wanting and ready to pay the money for getting the material. So it's basically demand driven, is what I want to say.
Mr. Turakia, you deal with buyers who are across several segments, the big users of flat steels and down to the small users. So do you think they will be able to absorb another price hike? How can the market react to it? And do you expect any changes?
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I agree with both the panelists, why the prices have gone up. It is a factor of either demand and supply and cost push. Now, in this case, when pandemic struck India, and of course, it struck little late. So all the mills across the world, they started looking at reducing their production levels. I think that was the major factor where the supply got depleted. That was number one. Number two, there was a level of uncertainty in the market. People did not know what is going to happen. Because COVID, we have never experienced something like COVID in last few centuries. So people did not know which way it is going to go. And so it was like, taking a decision every day. It was a new day and taking some new decisions every day. That is why the call which was being taken by the mills or the user or the distributor was on day-to-day basis. The stocks got depleted. The mills were not producing enough, except there was one green shoot, and that was China at that point in time, because China had already was in the post-COVID situation, while the whole world was in the COVID situation. So China, we could see very robust demand, and luckily for the mills, they could export to China, which started with export to China, and then later on it went on to some other countries. Coming to the question of whether the users are, happy with the situation, you see, it all depends what kind of user they are. In auto sector, there are long-term contracts. When there are long-term contracts, there is no escalation clause most of the time, or even if there are infrastructure projects, there may not be an escalation clause, and then of course the user is not happy at all. But this factor, I mean, the user has no other choice, because all the commodities across the globe are going up phenomenally. If you see all the metals, whether it is copper, nickel, aluminum, zinc, they are on all-time high. You see agri products, they are on all-time high. So what option does the user have? I think this is cyclical, and they have to take it into their fold that this is going to happen whenever there is a short supply and whenever there is a huge demand curve. That demand curve, which started with auto, which was not expected actually, because if you remember, in June and July, all the auto companies were sitting on huge inventory level, and perhaps in April I could read one article where in whole of India not a single unit was sold. So, and later on, once pre-Diwali time, we could see that all the inventory has gone, and there are fantastic schedules. There are reasons for that. There are reasons like, shared mobility. People are not going in for shared mobility. People are not using public transport. People want their own vehicle so that, they are safe and sound. And then it caught up to other sectors also, like white goods, or agriculture sector is doing well. Heavy industries now started doing well. So I hope the trend continues. Of course, the mills will have to look into how to cater to the SME and MSME segment, which is very, very crucial here, because they may not be able to bear the brunt. And just before this webinar, I was talking to Mr. Samuel, and I said I complimented him for coming up with the scheme for MSME, especially, which is very, very good. I think all the mills need to look into that.
Okay, thank you. So next question is on, looking at the flat steel products, the individual segments. So we have the HR coils, we have the cold rolled sheets, the galvanized sheets, and the color coated. So Mr. Saha, this question is for you. Do you see the prices in each of these sub-segments behaving differently? Will the amount of hike be different for each of these segments? Because in the market, all of these products are being taken differently. There's high demand for some of them, not so high for the others. So could you just throw some light on how the individual segments will do with pricing?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I'll just to start with, if we compare HR coil with heavy plates, maybe 6-7 years back, heavy plates used to get $30 to $40 premium on HR coil. And if you look at today's price, be it international or be it domestic, the HR coil is at maybe even for $50 higher than heavy plates. So even if you look at CRCA, I mean, few months back when there's not so much auto demand, it was almost running at close to 3,500 over HR, the spread. Now suddenly, because of auto demand, it has gone up to 8, 9, and maybe even some cases 10,000 rupees a ton. It's all CRCA is selling currently higher than maybe galvanized, the regular standard size. So I believe if the auto demand is strong and it looks like it will be strong, so CRCA prices will hold an edge. The kind of delta which we are currently having, this may continue for some more time, at least in the short term. And in case of galvanized, now from January to April, May, these are generally a stronger time for galvanized. So I do not see galvanized prices falling, or it'll at least match the HR prices, if not go up even higher. Heavy plates, it will again depend on the projects which are coming on, although there are some projects, recent awarding of projects, etc. So it's still as not as hot as HR coil, but probably at some point of time it will catch up to HR coil prices. May not be immediately, but when there is enough consumption comes back on the infra side.
Right. Mr. Samuel, what is your experience and what is your expectation? How do you see the spreads between particularly the HRCs and the CRCAs? Do you see them widening?
No, let me, Ruchira, start up by saying that, this year when the pandemic broke out, there was a huge, influx of, the movement of the laborers going back to their hometown. Many of them stayed back, leading to which what happened is the galvanizing industry and the color-coated industry saw a huge leap in the prices. Why? Because whatever labor was left out, the people were very eager to complete their work on hand. So in the first quarter, we found that the coated industry, started to pick up very well. Immediately, as soon as the lockdown opened up bits and pieces at various states, the movement started, though the public transport was not opened up. So this led to all the cars, which even auto majors did not envisage that, this type of a boom will come in their industry. Because of the public transportation not available, people had no choice but to go for the private mode of transport, leading to which two-wheelers and four-wheelers started to show a very huge increase in the sales. And even, some of the launches which was made, like, Mahindra came up with a model Thar. It was a phenomenal success at that point. And today they are having almost 15,000 booking. So what happened is CRCA immediately caught up. And, CRCA always used to maintain a very good delta over HR, and it used to be very constant, around 5,000 rupees over HR, 5.5. And then since the availability was not there and automotive people saw this type of initial rush to buy. So, and what happened is a year before, if you see, automotive companies were struggling to sell their model cars. Even new models were also failing. So they were down from the peak period of say 18, 19. So what happened is seeing this particular, and they had couple of issues also, like, they had BS6 coming in, axle load weight problem was there. All this came into being, and then they immediately saw, and they were crying to the government saying that, please reduce the GST and etc. I'm not getting into that particular point. What happened is seeing the type of new bookings that are happening, there were immediately huge demand for CRCA. Now CRCA started to pick up in the quarter 2 and the quarter 3 of this financial year, the late quarter 3. Now this particular movement will continue because auto majors feel that, this particular demand for automotive will sustain beyond quarter 4, sustain beyond quarter 3, and we go up to quarter 4. Now coming back to coated, like in appliance industry, if you just look back, people who were locked up in their homes and the maid servants were not able to come home. There was a huge rush of washing machines. There was a huge rush of dishwashers. I know a friend of mine, who had to wait for almost 4 months to get a dishwasher of his choice. In fact, we used all the jack. In fact, we were supplying to that company and we were not able to get the model that he wanted. It was sold in black. So the white goods, also showed a phenomenal increase in the sales. And especially coming to end of December, generally what happens is the refrigerator, the ACs all show a dip. But because of a lot of people at home, all of the people who are locked up at home, all the appliances showed a good increase in demand, which will again go in quarter 4. And quarter 4 generally is a year for the galvanizers and the cold rollers and the coated business. So we are sure that quarter 4, the price increase of galvanized steel, as Saha said, it may either be in line with HR increase, or else perhaps even take a leap further. We are just hoping that, because for us in sales, I fear a price increase, because the more it increases, the more it distances people like Mr. Nikunj Tarakke away from us. So we always want a phenomena where, a sales guy will always want a phenomena where the prices are such that the customer come to you and buy. He doesn't come to you with a rush saying that give this, give that, because that is the point where you create a distance between you and your customer.
Thanks. Mr. Samuel, when the price hike does come, will it be the same number that we see? Generally, it's by 1,000 rupees a ton. So can we expect that? And will it be across the board, across all the flat products?
No, not really. See, if you see the prices in the month of October grew up for HRC by almost 2,500 rupees, if I remember. In the month of November, it was almost 2,000 rupees, and now it's close to around around 3,000 odd rupees increase. And CRCA followed its own price increase. So in the quarter, that is quarter 3, the price increase that we anticipate is anywhere between 6,500 rupees only in HRC alone.
What lies ahead? Will it be 1,000 rupees, or will it be more than that? Give us some hint at least, or
See,
at least a band.
I don't think why people cry about in when it increase happens in steel. See onion prices, for example. It is something which you cannot avoid. That is something which from a level of say 30 rupees, it has gone up as high as 110 rupees also. There also the export used to happen. So there, which is a need of a common man. Every household can't stay away with one onion. If that prices go up, and it is stabilized at say about 80 rupees, because I went up to shopping yesterday with my wife and I had to buy that. So it was like an 80 rupees kg. Can you avoid eating onions? No, you cannot. And can you anticipate what type of a price will it happen? You cannot. So if you have to maintain your production levels, I'm talking about the inventory perspective. If you speak about the inventory is at lowest today. But if I'm talking from a production perspective, an OEM has to manufacture something, he will have to buy at those levels. What he need to do is, he need to ensure that his end level pricing also gather that type of momentum. And today, as Mr. Turakia said, it is known by world over that prices of commodities and everything is going up. So I think there is no reason for anybody to complain.
Mr. Saha, what do you think? Can we expect 1,000 rupees price hike, or might it be more than that? Just give us some idea about what kind of numbers we can work with.
It's very difficult to gauge what is the kind of pricing. We have tried so many times and we have failed. But
do you think the biggest of the hikes have already taken place, and subsequently it'll be the smaller hikes? Because 3,000 rupees was actually quite a lot. So will it be something similar, or do you think it might be a little more benign?
I think December will be maybe close to maybe what happened in November. This is my estimation. I do not know how the retail market will fare. It will totally depending on that.
And it might be different for the different products.
Yeah, it will be different for different products again. Heavy
Right,
plates may
right.
not see such a high rise, and HRC may see even a higher rise.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Turakia, I would ask you to look a little far ahead into the horizon and give us, if you can, an estimate for prices in the oncoming financial year. So FY 21-22, what do you foresee? I know it's going to be really very hard, but how do you see the market then, and what kind of prices do you think might we be seeing in FY 21-22?
Tough question. I was looking at a magic ball here, if it is lying here, and I can predict that. If I can
So this
predict
quarter,
that,
Q4, we already know hikes are coming, but
no, but
we'd
what
just
I
like to
know,
look a little
what
ahead.
I know for sure is that when the prices go this high and this rapidly, the consumption goes down, because there are so many applications where they cannot sustain the price. So there slowly and steadily the consumption will go down. This is a cycle. Once that consumption goes down, the demand on the mill will go down, and then the mills will start looking at stabilizing the price. I always believe that stability in the prices is good in the longer term. Any increase which is cost push, which is because of the cost push, is inevitable. As on today, it is more of less supply than the demand. This is what I think it is. The supply side is really not there. And if we talk of demand side, you can see November figures of auto are not as good as October. So that initial euphoria may not remain for, we don't know how long it will sustain, but maybe another 2 months, 3 months. Then we will have to look that if the other sectors have really picked up along with auto, then it will, maybe the price may remain, or it could also correct, maybe from April onwards, April 2021 onwards, it could correct, But having said that, we always feel that there are too many forces which are working in Indian market as well as international market. The main reason being liquidity, because most of the countries have printed money, they have infused so much liquidity into the system that today the corporates are borrowing at, say, reverse repo rate, maybe 3.35%, which is perhaps the lowest. Today you can get a domestic letter of credit discounted at 5%, which is never heard of. Today you can get home loan at 6.7%, which is also never heard of. So there is so much liquidity every day. Perhaps I think the banks are giving back to RBI 7 to 8 lakh crores. So if there is so much liquidity and the banks do not find the right place to park it, because if they do not find the right place to park it, then it will convert into bad loans. So they will take some other action. Now, how do you address this situation? The situation has also been created because there is so much of dollar inflow that RBI is buying every day, left, right, and center. I think from April onwards, they have bought $97 billion, which amounts to maybe 6 lakh crores or something like that. So there is so much liquidity that perhaps this liquidity they may have to reverse this scenario and take back the liquidity from the system. Only then there could be some stability, and that is why we see the kind of increase in commodity prices, agri prices, and across the board everywhere. So 2000, I hope that the mills also take right steps in the right direction, so that there is stability, so that the mills can make decent profit, users can make decent profit, and there is stability in the market, which is the key for growth. Otherwise, I don't want a situation like Lehman crisis happening again. Because if a situation like that happens, in order to alter that, or in order to, again put it into the right track, it takes another 3-4 years.
Right. Okay, I'll now move to the next theme, which is demand and supply. And I'd like to ask you, Mr. Saha, what kind of production tweaks have you had to make to cater to all the changes that are happening in the automobile sector? So for instance, two-wheeler sales are doing well, tractor sales are doing well. However, commercial vehicles are not doing so well. So have you been able to overnight shift to this change that the automotive sector is seeing? As well as, what are you hearing from them? What kind of demands are they making on you? And are you geared up enough to face that? Mr. Saha.
Yeah. See, in automotive, we are coming out from a situation where there's hardly any demand to whichever segment comes up. So as a company, we have always been very agile, and we always moved the way market wanted us to move, with an auto portfolio of 70 to 75,000 tons. So that portfolio we can easily move to the segment which is doing well. And in terms of future demand from the company, the auto manufacturers, they give about 2 to 3 months schedule. And all of the companies which have given a schedule are better than what we have today. So for us, it's a case of balancing the demand with our supply. It's not the other way around. And we will continue to focus on our partners with whom we have all have a long association and who have been consistent to us no matter what is the situation. So we'll prioritize according to that. And
Right.
we do see two-wheeler demand to continue, and CV demand also we can see picking up.
Right. Mr. Samuel, what is your experience here? Two-wheeler demand to continue on a strong note, and commercial vehicles also following the same track soon, even though they have been down so far. What are your clients telling you?
See, overall, automotive, if you look at the first quarter washout, it is, if you look at the compare and year-on-year analysis, the automotive last 10 months sale is down by almost close to 60%, in which the sales of commercial vehicle is down even further. They are 60% on an aggregated level. But if you look at the, maybe the two-wheeler segment, this is doing pretty well of late because of the pandemic and people who cannot afford, and especially as I told you, the agriculture having done well. This particular segment doing well is a great news for India as such. Why? Because the agriculture doing well, there is a lot of money now in the rural area. And the passenger vehicles also, if you look at the figures, the four-wheelers in the smaller segment, sub 4 meter segment has started doing well, not the big cars. So this again is a good thing, because though the auto majors may say, that is no much money in the small cars, but that car is what is selling. So today, the sales is happening actually at the ground level, where the customer is going to buy. So if you are asking me the switch between a commercial and two-wheeler, the commercial vehicle consumes more of HRC or an HRPO type of material, a very little bit of CRC goes. So there is no overlap. Now, commercial vehicle will do very well only if the construction industry does very well. If you bifurcate steel in the each of the segment, construction is one area, or the construction infrastructure is one area which is yet to pick up the way the other sectors have shown, rebounding back after pandemic. So maybe commercial vehicle will drag for a while. We may not see immediate, growth in the commercial segment, but from a JSW perspective, yes, auto majors are asking us material, and we are serving them very well to a level what we used to do in our peak times, today. And they know for very well that, there are the shorter lead times. Today the logistics has improved quite considerably. But, the challenge today remains is that, we are not able to keep the type of material that they want on ground, because auto majors need a lot of stock on ground level to be maintained, which is a big challenge today, not only to us, to everybody in the industry, because the increase in demand has not come only for a one auto major. It has happened to all in the industry. So it's a good time for all. It's not that people are complaining about a price increase, but it seems because the sales is happening at every point, I think people have taken up in their stride, and it's moving on. And now coming back to your earlier point, how much may be the price increase in quarter four? My estimate, I'm not an expert to say about the future, but I can say that anywhere between say 2000, 2500 will be the increase in the quarter four put together. If the demand sustains, if the automobile demand sustains, if the construction industry, especially for the roofing and the color coated demand picks up, so anywhere between 2 to 3 is will be there, and that I think will be absorbed by the market in general. Thank you.
So 2,000 rupees to 3,000 rupees price hike could be coming. That's what you're indicating.
For the quarter 4.
Okay, okay. So you also said that not much of material is there, and the auto companies are comfortable when they see a lot of material on the ground. You know, they need to be assured that the supply is sitting there and waiting for them. So how are you managing? I think last heard your capacity utilization at JSW Steel plants was at 89%. So has there been any improvement in this quarter? And in Q4, will you increase your capacity utilization? And will the auto companies get the enough stocks that they're looking for?
See, one of our line was modified, and it is to from a reversible mill to it will go to a PLTCM. So that and that will come up maybe in the quarter 4. So quarter 4 we are having a better outlook as far as the requirement towards automotive customers are concerned. But nevertheless, when I speak today, we have reduced our exports. Nitish had shown in his presentation in the if you look at the graph of exports was going up in the quarter 1 and the quarter 2, and then it has taken a dip very sharply. So we have on all the steel mills have reduced exports, and we are giving a lot of material within domestic requirement, taking care of entire domestic including the automotive. Challenge today remains is to maintain the level of stock. In fact, we have been told to the arrangement is we need to have at least a 30-day inventory with us, which is a big challenge today because we have depleted all the stocks, and today to increase that type of a stock I need some time.
What is your capacity utilization at currently?
See, currently we are at around 88%. In quarter 2 it was around an 86%, and quarter 1 was a washout, so less said the better.
Q4, what are we looking at?
Q4 we will be looking at more than in excess to 90%.
Right. And Mr. Saha, is that also your system in your plant? Are you also working at an 80% capacity utilization? And are you also seeing, stocks depleting very fast for the automobile sector?
Yes, automobile sector, as Mrs. Saji said, they look for all the SKUs, and it's not only about the number of days stock, it's the quality of the stock they look at. So this is also a challenge for us. And I mean, it's not only to do with the total production we do, also because the movement is more towards pickled and oiled and CRCA product. So uh, it's not that we can straight away increase capacity there, or so we are running full on those products, all the value added products. And on overall production level, we are currently running at par or even higher than what we have run anywhere, I mean, any time before.
What would that mean in terms of percentage?
In terms of percentage, I would say in terms of our rolling capacity, we are very close to, I mean, 95% or plus. So
and Q4, would you
maximized?
Right. And in Q4, are you raising it further?
We will be more or less at the same level because there is not too much scope to raise it further.
Right. Okay. So 95% even and in Q4, and a reasonably okay supply situation for catering to the auto sector. That's what you're saying. Even though there is some pressure on stocks, they need a 30-day stock. That's what you're saying.
They need a 30-day stock, specific stocks. So that is the challenge.
Right, right. Okay, moving to the construction sector. Mr. Turakia, we heard Mr. Samuel say that the commercial vehicle sales is going to pick up when the construction sector actually picks up. You do some bit of business here and you have a reasonably good idea about the construction sector. Please tell us what the scenario is at the moment and if you see this sector picking up.
So, pre-COVID, the sector itself, I think for last 2-3 years, the construction sector has been badly hit. And recently, when in Maharashtra, they reduced the stamp duty by half, so they made it by 3%, from 5 to 3%. And in some places from 6 to 3%. Now that has made a huge impact. And I have experienced myself that in low income group segment, in segment which is 50 lakh below ticket size, there is huge demand, which means the inventory is now getting gobbled up. And if you can, I had the experience of going to the stamp duty office, and I have not seen the kind of rush which we had. There was no social distancing, there was nothing. People were, falling on each other to get registrations done, which shows that there is tremendous movement in this market, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities, second home concepts. So we see that within 6 months or 1 year, this inventory should vanish. Once that happens, new investments, new construction activity will start. So maybe, we can see something happening from April onwards, that construction activity will really pick up. And on commercial vehicle, I think it is number one, construction activity, number two, industrial activity. I mean, investments in industry, new investments need to come by, and which perhaps may start from April onwards. So if that happens, I think it augurs well for all the players here. And, so if there is some slowdown in auto or some other sectors, then it'll be compensated by, the movement in construction and industrial activity.
Okay, thank you. So looking at the inventory levels, Mr. Saha, please tell us what kind of inventories you're sitting on. You spoke about the auto sector and you said it's hard to find enough material to please them. But that said, are there inventories at your plant? And could you give us the level of the inventories?
We are sitting at a very, very lean inventory level as of now. I would say on a normal operation or from compared to a normal situation, our inventory levels would probably be 80% of a normal situation currently.
How
And
much would that be in tonnage terms?
in tonnage terms, I would say in our overall level, the inventory probably in terms of plant level, we are almost about 80 to 100,000 ton lower than where we should have been, or in generally we are. Obviously, there is no limit to how much lower inventory you can work with, but compared to a normal level, or say maybe a January of current year, so current inventory level is roughly about 80 to 100,000 tons lower. And if we look at even retail markets or the inventory at the OEMs whom we supply, there seems to be again a drop in inventory level over the last 2 months. So our estimate is anything between 250 to 300,000 tons as a liquidation in last 2-3 months. Yeah, at retail level and at OEM level, I mean, to the major supplier customers whom we supply, almost 75 to 100,000 level, there's an inventory drop. So my guess is there is enough consumption happening at the ground level. Otherwise, you cannot see an inventory liquidation at plant and intermediary as well as a final OEM level.
Right. Okay. So you're saying that inventories deplete across the chain, even the stockists and the distributors, they're also reporting to you that their inventories are lower than the normal rationale that they have for holding inventories. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that is what our feedback is, and that's what we got a feedback from the market.
Right. Right. Mr. Samuel, how about JSW Steel? What kind of inventories are there? Could you just give us a number for the inventories? How much are you holding at present?
See, generally, if you look at a thumb rule, you need a minimum on a ground level, at least 15 to say 20-day inventory for a steel mill, because there are huge logistics involved. The yards are far off. So anywhere between 0.7%, 0.7% is the general rule today. So as Saha was saying today, since because of the demand that has come by, we are also at a very low inventory. Not only us, but all steel mills put together. So we have stock which is less than 15 days, and the biggest challenge that is that stock is also not something which I can feel that okay, I can replenish this stock with somebody's requirement today. Now those stock also, I have come to a level where SKU wise I may not be able to map anyone's requirement. So there is a mismatch of stock also, so which is again creating a problem for us. So it's not that the price increase we are able to take garner so much of help out of this price increase. We are also struggling to meet the ends to ensure that the customer should not be left out, the customer's requirement should be fed. So these type of challenges are faced by us. So our inventory levels are lesser than 15-day inventory.
Then what is actually stopping you from pushing up your capacity utilization so that you start producing at 100% levels so that you can also replenish all the stocks and reach a comfortable situation?
This month, Ruchira, you have to admit, and I think all the panelists will also agree for, is the iron ore prices, has gone up, shot up considerably high, and no one is talking about the cost that has gone up. So it's not that this is something which is only a demand push. The cost push also has happened, and I am sure that in no way you have the iron ore prices coming down any sooner down. So this is going to remain. So we are facing the challenges as far as production is also concerned, because for us, most of the iron ore come from Orissa. So we have to wait for it, and we are in struggling, because for me automotive requirement is on a 24-hour basis. So for us it is becoming very, very difficult to meet up to the requirement, not only of automotive. You call it drum and barrel, you call it any other industry for that matter. Even a small industry like furniture is also today struggling for want of material. So it's not a good sign that we are not able to. It's not that we are not able to give it, but there are other challenges for the industry as well. And believe me, today, since the the truck drivers have gone back, you will find a scenario where truck availability will also be a problem in times to come, because most of the drivers, even the shared services drivers, have gone back to their places. They have not come back. So you will find even the mobility for taking the material, that also will be a challenge in the times to come, and the prices of even the transport cost may also see a spike. So very much the increase not only related to steel, but a lot of other things are also in the anvil.
Okay, right. So the other things might be a labor shortage. That's what you're suggesting, that not enough truck drivers are there and not enough trucks are there. Are there other problems also other than iron ore pricing, which is stopping you from pushing up your capacity utilization to 100% at this point?
See, please understand, today most of the metro work is stopped not because there is a fund shortage, as Mr. Turakia was rightly pointing it out. There is more money available, but there are no people available on the ground. I heard one of the project customers that they had to bring in the labor force through by flight and start their project. And now since at a couple of places the labor have come back, you see a spike in the long requirement also. The TMT prices have also seen a shot up, not only because of the groundwork starting, but also because of the scrap prices going up. So the labor shortage is one. You will find the transportation shortages coming by. So these are some of the challenges that not only us in steel, but also every other industry will face in times to come.
Right. Mr. Saha, are you also seeing the same thing? It seems that, all of the labor has perhaps not come back to work. Is that the scenario at your plant?
Yeah, in our plant operation, we are managing with the kind of labor which we have. However, it may not be the optimal level which we used to have before lockdown. And in terms of outbound logistics, we are trying to look at more of a sea route, rail route, so as to to have a much less dependence on road movement. So these are something we are taking care of now, so as to move our outbound material, because otherwise there is no point in producing and then not able to put that material into the market. So we are taking steps like this to make sure that we get the material to the right places.
Okay, okay. So it is the problem is much beyond just the prices, the cost increase of iron ore. It is also labor shortage. It's also logistics problems. It's also of not having enough vehicles to move them. So that seems to be the scenario, and
I, I
therefore there
I
seems to
think
be.
you, sorry, I think you missed a point. Even the petrol prices, the diesel fuel prices, in the last couple of days, that also seen moving up. So I think the overall in general, the prices even of fuel has started picking up.
Okay, right. Okay, I'll now move to a discussion on the consumer durable segment. Mr. Turakia, you said that, the sub 5 lakh homes are selling like hotcakes, especially in small towns and villages because people
50,
are
50 lakh,
moving to
below
second home.
50 lakh, below 50 lakh.
50 lakh, I'm sorry, that's what I meant. So would that mean that, the durable or home appliances sales would also grow on the back of sales of new homes? And therefore, it might turn into a perennial demand that along with the automobile segment push, there would also be a huge demand for consumer durable sales, which might well go into the fourth quarter and of course in the new year.
Definitely, Mr. Samuel made this point, during lockdown when everybody was at home. So he could see, washers and ovens and so on and so forth, white goods segment, there was tremendous demand. And so there was, these appliances were off the shelf, there was nothing available. And this demand will continue because now people won't want on rental want to stay in a rental home because the home loans are very very cheap. You also have the subsidy from the government of 2.72 lakhs, so when they are taking home loan, and if it is I think below 32 lakhs or below 35 lakhs, if you are a first buyer of the home, then you get that kind of subsidy from the government. So it does make a lot of sense for people to buy new houses, and that will definitely lead to a demand spurt for home appliances. Definitely, I can see that very very much visible, and that demand is going to remain.
Right. So, our panelists, you might like to note, all of the participants, that all of our panelists are giving an absolutely glowing picture for the demand scenario across the board, even the segments where demand has been lacking, like commercial vehicle sales. They foresee a very robust and a very high demand. So that's where the steel industry in this flat steel segment stands. So I just have a very curiosity question, Mr. Turakia, maybe you can answer it. When we learn the basics about economics, there's one thing that we learn, that the steel industry grows on the back of GDP. Both go hand in hand because steel is such a component for growth. However, at this point, we are seeing quite the opposite. So the GDP is in contraction, a pretty severe one, down -7%. And the forecasts ahead are -5, -4. But steel seems to be taking its own trajectory. Do you think that this might actually converge after some point, or steel will just stay away from its GDP, queue?
So we had a few days back webinar where Mr. Subramaniam was there, and we were listening to him, and he said that the government also is surprised that it is a V-shaped recovery which is happening, and nobody had anticipated it, that this kind of recovery will happen. If you see, even RBI had predicted some, September forecast GDP -9.5%. Now they have, changed it to -8.6%, and all other financial institutions, Nomura or Deutsche Bank, or they've also, revisited this, and they've changed from more negative to less negative. That means our GDP growth would be better than, much less affected than what they thought it would. Going forward, steel definitely is the driver of growth. It is good that in India, for flat steel products, there is a lot of consolidation which has happened. So when there is consolidation, it brings a structured way steel is being distributed or the demand of the user is being catered to, which is also very positive for Indian steel industry. What in future, what I want to see is that more investment should go into steel, more value-added products need to be brought into the fold of the steel manufacturers, which will, so import substitution should happen. More and more import substitution should happen. And the situation today where the steel mills are not able to cater to the demand should not happen. I mean, the user industry needs to be given steel at the right time and at the right price. This is very, very important because the user needs to be competitive. If the user is not able to compete maybe in the local market or for export, then we are asking for trouble. So there has to be a synergy where, the user industry's requirements need to be looked into, and if the steel mills take right decisions in that direction, then definitely I think these are very, very positive times which we see going forward. So I see the GDP growth will come back. I don't see, technically we are in recession, but uh, I see things are going to change maybe first quarter 2021 onwards. It will definitely, or maybe second quarter, but definitely there is not much of, there is no cause of concern except that COVID, if it relapses or there is something else which is in store which nobody knows about it, then it is a completely different ballgame.
Right. I hope that there's only one adversity we are looking at,
Yeah.
which is COVID and only COVID. Okay, moving on to the next segment. This is on exports and imports. Mr. Saha, can you tell us what kind of an allocation you have made for exports? What percent of your production are you sending overseas? I know exports have fallen quite a bit, but still you must be looking at those markets to at least retain your networks there. So what kind of an allocation do you have at ArcelorMittal?
Yeah, we are looking at domestic first, to be very fair to you and to everyone. We are only looking at not even, I would say, 5 to 10% of our production to go into exports, not more than that. I mean, in at least in foreseeable future, because domestic demand is strong. I said previously, the export may get a better realization now if we go to Europe or somewhere else, but we want to be in the domestic market, and only if there is a strategic customer whom we service in all weather customer, then only we go to those kind of markets. At best, maybe for us, that would be Middle East market. But apart from that, we are not looking at export anywhere.
So the trends are changing so fast. This export trend just stayed for some 5 to 6 months. Do you fear that this might be happening at the cost of losing maybe some other customers in the foreign markets? And when again the tide reverses, would it be easy for you to quickly again beef up your exports?
I would say it's not a recent policy. From January onwards, we have been always true to domestic market, and that was our policy. And we only said that maybe up to Middle East market is something where we can serve as an extension of our domestic market. But all other market, we will be in general in spot situation.
Right. And what about JSW, Mr. Samuel? What kind of an allocation do you have? Is it 5 to 10% like at ArcelorMittal or
See,
better?
basically, thanks, Ruchira. No, we did in the 1920 period close to 3.2 million tons of exports. And in the first year, this year in the quarter one, when we did not have any domestic sales, we had to keep our mills on. It's not steel mills cannot be switched off and switched on. So we did not have any domestic sales. So we had to forcefully go to the export market. And JSW historically, we have our set of customers. So we continued our exports, but definitely it will not be higher than what we did the last year, despite the last 8 months was pretty well for export for us, but we are slowly reducing our volume for export. So this year we may be ending up somewhere close to around 3.2 or maybe at the most 3.5 million tons of exports. Now coming back to you, in case the domestic market has any problem or maybe COVID strike backs, so that's why we are keeping our bit of export volumes on, because some of our customers are highly dependent on our products, like coated business for that matter, so and value added products. So there are a lot of customers dependent on our sales, so we have to export to these customers.
Okay, and is it easy to, when this export high export trend started, we were talking about the advantages of entrenching Indian steel in many more countries. So do you think that advantage has been taken away, or your clients in those many countries might come back to you looking at Indian steel and wanting to buy from you?
See, today the export market prices are also very high. If you compare it with domestic, any mill for that matter would love to export. US, you say today, it's anywhere at $900. So, despite that fact, if you see the numbers, we have brought down the exports because the domestic volumes are picked up. So steel mills today is not looking at that opportunity to go to exports. So the options are available. We can go to those customers. They are waiting for us, but we are taking a moderate step and fulfilling the domestic requirement, because this is the main market for us, and we will be supplying the Indian requirement or the domestic requirement first.
Right. Okay, Mr. Turakia, I have a question on imports. Do any of your clients want material from outside? Are they trying to get it? Are they talking about the customs duty? Do they want it reduced?
See, given a choice,
steel.
The customer would not like to import because there are a lot of uncertainty attached to it. So if you book cargo today, you are going to have that cargo after 3 months or 4 months. So you don't know what is going to happen, what is going to happen to the prices at that point in time. Secondly, sea voyage that gets delayed, then there is an intrinsic risk of foreign exchange. If the mills here are able to supply material consistently and at proper pricing, by proper pricing, the mills will calculate the pricing based on their cost or the supply and demand factor. The user would always, calculate the price or the cost price based on his product, whatever product, whether it is viable to him or no. So there is a big mismatch here, and nobody is wrong. Everybody is right in their own way, because everybody is trying to make some reasonable profit in their business. So the customer always looks into that, the mills are quoting higher prices, so can I have another option? However, import option is not always there, because if you take today, the mill, say for hot rolled coil, you cannot import from China. It is not workable. The prices are very high. Then, Japan and Korea, that was what they were supplying to Indian market, and that's about it. You don't have any other source where the import is viable. So import, I think, is not a factor as on today. Even in the best of times, when import was, when there was a lot of hue and cry about import, it was never beyond 7 to 8% of the total consumption in India. Now perhaps it has further gone down. So import is really no factor here. But having said that, I would always believe that an option has to be there with the customer. Customer has to decide whether they want material from the local mills or they want to import the material. That option should always be there. Only then they can become competitive.
Does China have a lot of material, lot of stocks of steel which can flow in using that
Not at
option?
all.
That
Not at
India
all.
needs a lot of steel right now. Do you think
Not
that
at all.
option might open?
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, China is buying.
Is there
Today,
any other country in the vicinity of India that might have a lot of
not
inventories
at all,
and we could
because
see
in
those?
I mean, Nippon Steel was selling material. Now they are in collaboration with ArcelorMittal, so they don't want to touch Indian market. Uh, then Korea, POSCO also do not want to touch Indian market. Hyundai is left out, but they are busy supplying to Europe and other markets where they are getting much higher price. So why would they supply to India? In fact, Indian mills today, let us suppose hot rolled coils, I mean, Mr. Samuel can correct me if I'm wrong, they are at $630, $640 FOB. And China is at around 590, 600 FOB. So it's a golden opportunity for Indian mills. But rightly, the Indian mills have decided, and that is rightly so, to supply to the domestic players. Because if they cannot starve the domestic players of the material, because I mean, in any case, 90% they are supplying to the domestic industry, and they have to supply to domestic industry. Only then
But
domestic
here,
industry can, yeah.
right. But here are two of the biggest Indian players that are saying that there is a big crunch on stocks. They do not have enough stocks. They are facing some cost pressures. So do you think that might lead to, some kind of imports coming in, that,
No, it
the
will not
tide
come in
might turn?
because the biggest hindrance is the steel quality control order. So not many mills have registered under steel quality control order because they don't think India is, a regular market for them. So they have not gone into it. So they just cannot supply to Indian market. And wherever, if somebody has supplied to the Indian market, there are anti-dumping duties. So import will never be an option available. I don't think import is going to be a threat or anything. It is not happening. And, it is only steel mills, if they, if, I mean, so what I hear, 85, 90%, 95% is very good capacity utilization. So if the mills do not export much and they look into it, which is what both of them are saying, so it is good for the Indian user industry. At some point in time, the shortage will slowly dwindle, and it will come to normalcy, what it used to be, say maybe a year back, which will be good.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the next topic, which is import substitution. I'll come to you, Mr. Samuel. You mentioned that, the auto companies want a certain type of products which they are always asking for. So that seems to me, import substitution. They import the best grades from overseas, whatever little is being imported, that is. So have you taken any steps to, cater to them, which means possibly raising your technology or investing in it? Is anything like that happening at JSW Steel?
See, having invested in a line like a PLTCM, what we have, we are now being able to give to the auto majors advanced high strength steel. We are already giving, almost a UTS of 980, that's higher strength. And, we have already tested for 1182 in the cold rolled application. And in the coated application, we are giving as high as 590. So the requirement of the auto majors, Saha will also supplement this, can be catered by the Indian steel manufacturer. They have to come to us, and they have been coming off to us, and we have offloaded quite a few of their requirement through our latest mills and capability. Today we have our galvanneal capacity also, which 2 year back they used to import. So now most of that sizes have come back to us, And I feel the auto majors need not look for the import substitution, as we have got a lot of grades that we can give it to them. All advanced high strength steel we are able to supply today to all the auto majors. So there is no need for them to look for the imports of late, is what I want to say.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'll now open the floor for questions from the audience. And one question is here right in front of me. This is coming from Ashwin Panchal. It is aimed at anyone in the panel. It is saying China has traditionally been exporter, but now it is buying in a big way. Does it have any indication for the pricing in future? It's a question on prices. Mr. Torakia, can you answer this question, please?
So China, as I had already said earlier also, China started buying because they were into the post-COVID era, and all the other countries were already into COVID. And so there were lockdowns, and the mills had no other way but to export from their own country, because the consumption in their own country had trickled down to zero almost. But China was in post-COVID, so they started buying, left, right, and center. And that is how the mills have survived. However, after a particular price level, China did not buy. And at the same time, China's exports have also gone down, which shows that their domestic consumption is very, very robust. So I don't see China as on today being a threat at all.
Can you give us, sorry to interrupt, can you give us just one guesstimate of your price in dollar terms, where you see the price in the new year in the international market?
For hot rolled coils?
Yes, please.
So China, as I already mentioned, it is roughly as on today is at $590 FOB. India is at $630, $640 FOB. China at this level, I mean, in first quarter, I don't think it'll hover around the same level, or maybe $15 plus or minus. I don't see much movement from here.
Okay. Okay, the next question is from Ashwini Kumar. And Mr. Saha, can you please answer it? It says, what are the new areas of application of steel besides auto and consumer durables, which are going to be fast growing in the next few years?
Yeah, I think next few years, one of the trend which we are seeing on the heavy plate side is on the green energy. So we see a healthy number of demand coming from the wind sector as well as the solar sector. And the demand of traditional power, that is thermal power, will probably not be as high as it used to be. So this is one sector where we are banking on, and we think that agri sector, which generally do not get so much of, I would say, importance and coverage, that will continue to be among the fastest growing sector in coming future.
Thank you. Mrs. Samuel, can you take this next question, which is from Neil Shah? He's asking, what is the meaning of having a listed price of mills? Do the mills sell according to the list price? So I think he's referring to a standard price that you might have. And but the follow-up question from my side is that, is there enough scope for negotiations when people come to you to buy your products?
See, there has to be a price list, based on which any company or any product needs to be sold. Now, there are price lists for every segment, if I call it a segment, because based on their end product application, this particular segment price list is there. For automotive, we have contracts, like, you have a quarterly contract that way. So the price list is generally an ex-mill price list. From there on, the freight for that particular location is added on. So it becomes very easy for anyone to refer that. And coming back to JSW, we have our own price list for a retail segment, which goes to the retail network. and we have a guideline price for our OEM customer for maybe drum and barrel. In the GI space, we have for for the furniture segment, for the roofing industry, that way. So we have a price list which is either an XML prices or a landed price list. So landed price list will be a fleet inclusive price list for that particular location. So there are various ways to do it. So one is a price list that is XML price list where the freight will be added on, and then there are price lists that are landed price lists where the cost of the delivery also is attached to it. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes. I'll take the next question, which is from Nadeem Khan. He's asking, is it correct to put retail and OEM market in the same price movement basket, especially in the current peculiar conditions? Mr. Torakia, can you handle this question?
No, I'm the wrong person you are asking, because I don't know.
I think I need to answer this question. See, basically,
Okay.
please understand today, the distributor segment or the retail segment caters to the MSME, and the MSME are the small timers or the small ticket customers who may not have the wherewithal to buy huge volumes. So these are the two, and the dealer segment or the retail segment or the trade segment caters to from their stock. They always keep inventories for their end customers based on a radius of kilometer. Now, what happens is today, because of the price movement or seeing the demand, the price of an OEM and a retail is moving parallelly. There is no separate case where I can feel that the prices for retail is moving vertically a little more higher, and the OEM is not going in a similar manner. Coming back to your, this is the question subset of the earlier question, whether there are any negotiations available. See, negotiations only happen when there is room for negotiation or when there is a need for negotiation. Today, when the demand is there and the customer is there to buy, you generally don't negotiate. I take an example. I had been to recently a mall. See, what happens is, we are social animal. When you keep people within a four walls for a longer time, like if we keep our pets at home, and when you leave them out for a liberty, so what happens is initially there is a big, a mad rush everywhere. So this is what's happening. Today, yet the lockdown is not open. We are still working under a lockdown condition, but good to see that most of the industries today have revived back. But like few challenges, as Mr. Turokia said, and I was very happy to note that a 50 lakh flat is getting sold. People are working from their home, so office spaces are getting empty now. So we may have a second challenge that is coming, as you may have a lot of inventory of the office or the commercial establishment getting free. So coming back to your original question is, we have a price list. It is landed price list or an XML price list, and it is a customer driven price list. For a retail segment, it will be a one set of price list, and for a application based customer, it will be a separate guideline prices.
Okay, the next question is from an anonymous attendee, and he or she is asking, the government is planning to reduce or stop the iron ore export for some time. This is, of course, a buzz. Should we be concerned over the prices falling down due to such an action very soon? And added to that is the question of Akshay Gupta, who is asking, is the government going to stop export of pellets, billets, HRCs? So what is the buzz? Mr. Saha, would you be able to answer this question, please?
Yeah, from AMN's point of view, we have exported pellets only in April and May, when there's a serious crisis of demand domestic, and we could not find such a large volume to move to international market so soon. But since April, May, and June, maybe one shipment onwards, there has been no pellet export. We are not able to serve, we are barely serving domestic industry. So at this point, there is no question of pellet exports for us. We would always like to serve the finished goods product to any industry and not any intermediary products.
Okay. When is the availability of steel expected to improve? There's an acute shortage of steel in the market. Another anonymous attendee is asking. we have in a way covered this because capacity utilizations as indicated by both the companies is on the rise. So I'm going to skip it and move on to Ashwini Kumar. The question he has is, how much is the defense sector flat steel demand? And what are you seeing? And what are you doing about it? So, Mr. Saha, can you take this question if you cater to the defense segment?
In defense sector, we have a very limited flat steel demand in defense sector. I mean, this is very small compared to if we talk about a larger steel demand. So in defense sector, we supply in a year anything between be 5 to 10,000 tons in a year. So which is a very small quantity, but we supply to all defense sector, including submarine, including tanks, and even including nuclear power submarines. So in terms of supply, we supply to a whole range of defense. I mean, in terms of be mostly on the heavy plate side, but the requirement is very, very small and in very, very niche categories.
Right. Thank you. So,
Ruchira, I have a question for Mr. Nikunj. So yesterday, Maruti had reported a year-on-year increase of 1.7% in their overall sales for November 20. Now, the buzz in the market is that the festive uptick is over and the sales will in the automobile sector will subside down now. So do you see this impacting the steel prices in the months to come?
The auto sector is consuming almost about 8 to 10% of flat steel segment, right? And Maruti Suzuki is seeing a good uptick because they are into the lower segment, maybe a vehicle which is below 7 lakhs, whereas we all mentioned in our remarks that people don't want to go for shared mobility or they don't want public transportation to be used and they want to use their own vehicle. I think that demand will still remain. I don't think that demand will go away very soon because now with COVID, I think the whole concept, the line of thinking has completely changed for each and every individual. We have become much more conscious about our health. We have become much more conscious about safety and what steps to be taken for that. So each and every individual has taken that step in their own personal level. And one is that, they may not use an auto, they will use a two-wheeler. If somebody is able to, afford a 5 lakh car, then they will buy that car, maybe with loan from the bank or an NBFC. But they would do that rather than traveling into an auto rickshaw or a taxi or in a bus or, go by train. So I have seen people not using train and traveling by car for 500 kilometers or 600 kilometers because they don't want to take risks. So this demand is not going to go away easily. This demand has only started and I think it is there to stay.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
okay, next question is from Ravinder Rangar. He is director of Stork Group. And he is asking why are prices so volatile every week or two? We have been facing this scenario and there seems to be no stability, making it extremely challenging to quote to customers. And secondly, availability is another major challenge. Even with the way prices are, we as a consumer of steel find it difficult to get the grades of steel we need, making it extremely difficult to service our customers. Mr. Turakia, is your situation matching with this and how do you deal with it? So it is not just a one-way street, steel prices going up and up. He's pointing out that it is also very volatile and availability is an issue. So how do you deal with a similar situation if you're facing it, that is?
Volatility is there definitely. We cannot, because there were factors of COVID and lockdowns and so on and so forth. All the raw material prices going up, shipping also going up tremendously. So there are a lot of other factors, and volatility has been there. So we cannot avoid that. As far as I totally agree that there is shortage of material, which everybody is agreeing to that. And I think the mills are also working towards stabilizing the supply side so that this kind of shortage does not remain. And I think it is a short-term phenomenon. I think very soon, maybe in maybe 2 months or 3 months time, it should get stabilized. And availability of higher grades, consistent availability of higher grades is an issue, but I think it is WIP work in process for all the mills in India. It cannot be done overnight. They have to invest in technology. They have to, do trial runs. They have to see to it that the right quality is being produced consistently, and the user industry is happy with the quality. So it is WIP, and I think as we go into future, this situation will improve.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Mr. R.K. Singhal, who used to work for Steel Authority earlier. And he's pointing out to a news report that he has seen, which says China's October flat steel exports are up further on month. So he's asking, this says October exports from China is up. And can you explain this? So Mr. Saha, can you just explain why China is exporting more? What is the shape of the global market? Any observation that you might have?
Yeah, I'd say if you look at China's prices to Vietnam market is currently lower. So that is one market they're looking at. In the sense, if you look at Indian steel mills will probably ask for between $650 to $660 in Vietnam market, while China will be currently willing to supply close to 610, 615 CFR Vietnam. So although there are some restricted re-export of Chinese goods allowed from Vietnam, but for Vietnam's domestic industry, that's a good market for China, which the void created by Indian mills. So that is a place where they are captured. So that is one place their exports have gone up. Otherwise, Chinese offers to any other country or even India or anywhere else is there is not too much Chinese offer anywhere. So China, I would say, is what their production is again going back to their originally demand driven production.
Or they might be eating up some of your existing global markets.
China is in Europe. China is not supplying anything because of the dumping issue. So China typically supplies to South America, where Indian mills have not been too, interested any time. Even in the past and even now. So Southeast Asia is one market where everyone supplies. So that's an open market for all.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Mr. Sunit Pimple, and he's saying during the pandemic, majority of the steel mills announced dropping their capex plans. Now, with the capacity utilization going as high as 90% and demand being so robust, are they thinking of getting their capacity expansion plans back? So, Mr. Samuel, would you like to speak about this?
Yeah, actually, the capex, not only for steel mills, but in general, everyone had taken a back seat. Now, as Mr. Turakia said, with the government giving so much of loans and also the money that is available, I'm sure that the liquidity which is there having increased, the capex will bounce back. In fact, we have couple of projects that is coming up and will be up and ready. Our Dolvi, which was 5 million ton, will immediately go into a additional 5 million ton at Dolvi, so that will be a 10 million ton. Our Monnet will have an expansion that is going on. Our current CRM, which had a PLTCM, there we will see a increase in volume. Our coated business, will again see a ramp up. So the capex which was taken a backseat, not only because of the lockdown, but because of the manpower shortage too. So liquidity and manpower is coming back, but again the warning signals are like, there are many world over. We have seen the phase 2 of COVID reappearing as the lockdown opened up. So here too, we have not opened up completely. So it's too early to say that the capex will open up. We have to wait and watch. But JSW is definitely going, to start some of the projects which was on a slow. This thing we are going to ramp it up faster.
Right. Okay. So Rahul Jain from Systematics is asking for ArcelorMittal. Same question. What are your growth plans for India? Are you planning any capacity expansion?
Yeah, Rahul, we are planning capacity expansion on the auto side and on coated side, as well as our first plan is to increase our capacity from current 8.6 billion to 14 billion. So those are absolutely on track. So there is no change on that. It's a long-term expansion plan and there is no change on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Sonali Chavda is planning to buy a car, it seems, because she's asking, as stated by the panel member, that there would be an increase in demand in the automotive sector. Does it mean that the prices for the automotive customers shall increase? Well, it is a little bit away from your industry, but still, what is the buzz you're hearing? Mr. Samuel, can you interact with the car makers? What are they saying? Will they pass on the costs?
See, car makers are one of the toughest negotiator in business today. They cry a lot when you ask for a price increase. The total steel that goes into a car, maybe, flat steel while I talk of it, is anywhere between 450 to 500 kgs. So you can do that calculation. So there is definitely today, if you look at the contractual prices for auto majors, it is much lower than the spot prices. So while we give the volumes to the auto majors, the spot prices, we have an opportunity to give it to them, but we are still fulfilling the commitment to the auto customers. But definitely for quarter 4, I think many of the mills may go back to the auto customers saying that they will need a price increase. And auto customers, for their end product, definitely you can look out for a price increase, because see, remember one important factor today is all the cars today are BS6. This was which they had envisaged a year ago. It was from a BS4 to a BS6 compliant, which they had to undergo. You may not see at the outset of the car, at the outside of a car, what is BS6, but there is a lot of parts that they have utilized, which is helping the car to become to observe the emission norms. So most of the vehicles, or entire vehicle today, is BS6 compliant, including the two-wheelers. So definitely the cost that was there, they have not applied that cost yet, I feel, because of people were not buying, there was slow in demand, the dealers were not buying. So now you can expect definitely in the quarter 4. In fact, Maruti has already announced a price increase. You can see a price increase going forward in the quarter 4. Be rest assured. So whosoever is the question, I think Sonali, you can immediately go and buy your car. You can not only get your depreciation, but you can get at a discounted price today. Maybe you don't wait for your quarter 4 to set in.
Okay, thank you. So Alex Nagarajan is asking, when the rise of price was so steep, and when this the slowdown comes, or when there's a fall, would that also fall in the same rate? As in, will the falls be lower than the way the hikes have taken place? So traditionally, the fall rate has been less. So what can be expected this time, particularly for HRCs? Mr. Torakia, can you answer this question? When the fall comes, will it be equally sharp, or do you think the falls will be much less than the hikes? Of course, it's a guesstimate.
It all depends on host of factors. Nobody can guess how the fall is going to come. As I said, I don't want something like Lehman crisis to happen. At that time, I remember hot roll was at $900 and it went down to 400 something. In a span of maybe 3 months or 4 months. So I don't see that kind of situation happening now, because the demand is very robust. There is tremendous liquidity into the system. So I don't see at all that kind of situation. I see even if the fall comes, it will be gradual, and it may not be too much of a fall also. If iron ore prices remain the way they are, then I don't see too much of correction also happening. At some level, it will definitely stabilize, and because you can calculate, say today the futures of iron ore say around $138 January futures. So you can calculate what is the cost of hot rolled coils, which the mills are incurring, and perhaps that could be taken as a base. But I don't see much correction happening if there is liquidity into the system, which is there. And I think RBI has given enough signals that they will let the liquidity remain. Of course, inflation is something which they need to look into. They'll try to curb it by because there is more of agri-inflation in the system. So that they will try to curb because that affects the common man. But otherwise, in steel, I don't think the government is going to do much. They are happy with the situation. The mills are happy with the situation. Maybe the user is not happy. So, certain steps may be taken and the user would also be happy.
Thank you. Next question is from Mr. Rakesh Roshan, and he's asking, what is JSW Steel's e-commerce plans? There was some news that JSW is going to do an amazing kind of stuff for the steel industry. Can you give us an update on that, please, Mr. Samuel?
Right now we are working on the MSME sector, and now we have opened up a website for MSME to come and put up their requirement there, and we are trying to address that in that model, which is going to shape up in a week or so. So the small time customers can come onto that platform and give buy the material. So besides this, we already have a e-platform called SteelyMart, which is one of our group companies on which we do our trading regularly. These are the two things that is there in the annual.
Thank you. Question from Mr. M.J. Dhar. Says, with both JSW and ArcelorMittal having their captive mines, do they really have issue of iron ore supplies? Are they hugely increasing their margins by selling finished steel at higher prices? What do you have to say, Mr. Saha?
See, captive mines or not, if you look at NMDC prices and the way the prices have changed. So I'm just for a pure comparison. If we look at January was a stable month. So January, the NMDC prices were around 2,900 per ton for iron ore fine 64% Fe. Today, after a 500 rupees increase, now I think it is about 4110. So if we look at January steel prices, these were about 40,000 rupees a ton. And today's steel prices is, after increase, it has come to close to maybe a 47,000 rupees. So we can see how, the difference, the way the iron ore prices has gone up versus how the steel prices has gone up. So if the iron ore prices has gone up almost by 33%, in comparison, the steel prices, that has not gone up by that much. It may be at best at 20%. So it's not that people are increasing their profits or something. So it is purely basis cost push and demand. So it's a mixture of both. The price is going up.
Thank you. Next question is from Mr. Vijay Hisse. He's asking, what is ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel's plan for servicing the MSME customers? What is the Hypermart plan? So like JSW Steel, do you also have a special program for catering to MSME?
Yes, we have Hypermart as a part of our retail arm. And in addition to that, we have also launched our e-commerce platform, eHypermart. So this model is again going to, it's mainly for serving MSMEs. So from various stock points along the countries, The customer can directly place an order on web, and that can be serviced. So this is the new facility that has come up, and we see this facility to bring up at least close to 5% of our revenue in the coming year. The e-hypermart facility, and the hypermart, which is currently between 20 to 25% of our overall sales, is happening through the retail arm of hypermart. This is mainly for small retail customers or end users.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll take the last question. We have overshot our time, but there are many questions there. So I'll take the last one, which is from Nadeem Khan. And he's asking, how has the pandemic influenced the way of doing business in some fundamental way? Is digitalization now an important requirement for Indian businesses? I will put that question to you, Mr. Saha. Are you going to spend more on digitalization if that really has become part of your life?
We are spending a substantial amount on our digitalization effort, and that's why I told you some time back that from next year onwards, we will have a separate target for our sales through e-commerce channel, that is e-hypermart. So we have taken this project on a huge scale, and okay, this is probably the project was conceptualized much before COVID, but COVID is the tipping point where this is, we have come to know that this is a necessity now.
Okay. Okay, I'll take one more quick question, which is on the policy front, which we haven't spoken about much. So this will be actually the last question. It is coming from Mr. Ajay Somasundaran. He's saying, will the PLI scheme announced by the government have any impact on the steel scenario in India? Mr. Turakia, can you make your observations on this, please?
No, which scheme? I didn't get it.
PLI.
What is that scheme?
The profit-linked, production-linked incentive scheme.
Yeah,
Does that touch upon the steel
That was
industry?
announced recently. I have not
Yes.
gone through the fine print about that. I think around 6,500 crores have been declared by the government for production-linked incentive to the users, but I cannot throw more light onto this.
Anybody else? Mr. Samuel, have you given a thought to this?
Yeah, see, basically,
production-linked.
Production-linked incentive is the details have come to us, and we are working on it. And I'm sure this is a very good policy by the government, and we have set up a team to work on the total production that we can show, especially the value added is going to get a higher incentive. So we are working on it, and the details are still awaited on it.
Right. All right. So with this, we'll close this webinar. And quite a few points I have got in this webinar, and I hope all of the participants have got them too. Just some of them are the very sharp price rises. This trend is seen continuing. The very, very robust demand, this trend is seen continuing. More auto sales, more two-wheeler sales, seen continuing, more housing sales, and therefore more consumer durable sales. These are some of the pointers I have got, and also a great deal of cost pressures. So with this, I hope the scenario for the future for Q4 and also the year ahead becomes clearer. And I'd like to thank all of the participants and the panelists. Thank you very much, panelists, for your time. And I'd like to tell the participants that if you wish to listen to the recording of this webinar, you can check back on the SteelMint website. We would be publishing an edited version on YouTube for you to have a look. And as always, do keep a lookout for more such webinars from SteelMint events. Thank you very much and have a really great year end. Goodbye, and you may now leave the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.